For New York, 3 tight ends, and Perez to throw for it. It's caught. Touchdown. Mikhail McKay working over Harlan Miller for the New York touchdown. And the
bottom line is, you know what? Every win is hard.
Yes, sir.
Every win is hard. Appreciate it. Enjoy it. Know how much better we can play and feel good for each other, because I'll tell you what, you deserve it. I couldn't be happy. Congratulations.
Luis, first of all, congratulations. Talk about stepping in for Matt. You know, this was your first start. Assess how you thought you played today.
There's a lot of plays I wish I had back. I'll tell you what, man. As a quarterback, you always, you want to be perfect all the time, and obviously that's not going to be the case. It's an imperfect game. But yeah, there's a few plays I definitely wish I would have had back. But ultimately, it's about improving, right? So I'm going to go back, watch the tape, and just improve on next week.
Already up by 8. Here's Tamu on the keeper. Option play, and it's bobbled forward. Touchdown! Wow, what a recovery by Keith Ford.
To the team's credit, I definitely want to give a major shout out to Will Hill. He was playing with a very heavy heart today. You know, his father had an aneurysm yesterday, and he's resting peacefully right now, but that was weighing on his heart these last couple days. So, and he played so well, and we gave him a game ball, and then the other guy we gave a game ball, and I thought he called a hell of a game was Jay Hayes, and he became a grandfather yesterday, and his grandson Malachi came into this world. So, really it was very joyous because Will's father's resting peacefully, and he's on the mend, and we had a new life come into this world. So that's great for the Battlehawk Nation. I thought that the most important part was our time of possession. We kept them off the field. Hell, they only had the ball for 7 minutes in the first half, and then they made some plays in the second half to get the game back to being close, and that's when we have to have the killer instinct and really come back and just in the second half and finish the game and do a better job of that.
And by the way, it's working. 7. Jones goes down though. The ball is loose. It's out and it's picked up for a touchdown. Edmund Robinson. The sack, the fumble recovery, the touchdown.
Coach, can you talk about the defense? This is the 4th week in a row that in the second half your team has only allowed 9 points, and a day they had 5 turnovers.
Yeah, the defense, we talk about those takeaways all the time, and our defense just kept hanging in there. And, we needed to score more points while we had our chances to do it with those takeaways. But, it's a team game, and we did enough both sides of the ball to win. I think that's going to be the start of a pretty good rivalry between Houston and Dallas, and I know they'll be ready when they come back on Thursday night late.
Redirect Jalen Tolliver, a run straight ahead. Temple paying off for Tampa Bay, and a surge into the end zone. Touchdown, Jaquez Patrick from 8 yards out.
How does it feel to get your first one of the season?
Well, I'm just happy for our players and our coaches. They're a resilient bunch. Our players have a sense for how good we can be. We said it all along, there's a sign of a good team in there. We're going to enjoy the win. There's a lot of different ways we can get better. We know that. But I just want them to enjoy the win. And there's nothing like a winning locker room. And tonight they'll enjoy it and get some rest, and we'll get back to work. There's a lot of different ways to get better. You can never hang your hat on one game. We started 0-0 on Wednesday, and we'll go from there. But I'm proud of our coaches and our players for the work they put in to get to this moment and a well-deserved victory.
What is up, my friends? Welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. I'm your host, Mark Perry from XFL News Hub. On this week's show, we recap Week 4, and we preview Week 5. Plus, we got Landry Jones out and a bunch of news, plus your social media. We got a ton of phone calls today and so much more. So first, Before we get started with our lovely program here, we got to thank our sponsor. You know who it is. You can see it in the background on this video. Oh, and by the way, do you like my hat? You like my new DC Defenders hat? They're not playing very well, but I did get a new hat. I'm very excited about it. America's Team's hat. I like it. But on to our sponsor, Mother's Cantina. That's right, Mother's Cantina. Really simple. Tex-Mex stuff. They're based in Ocean City, Maryland. They whip up the winning recipe of fresh Tex-Mex at affordable prices paired with the best margaritas in the heart of Ocean City, Maryland. So if you're a Marylander out there hanging in Ocean City, anywhere in that area, go check out Mother's Cantina. With a focus on bold flavors and fresh organic and local ingredients, great award-winning dishes and drinks. Our new tortilla soup also offers quick carryout. They do carryout, beer, wine, the whole deal. This is Mother's Cantina, 28th Street Plaza, 2810 Philadelphia Avenue, the heart of Ocean City, Maryland. But guess what? You don't have to live in Ocean City, Maryland to get their stuff. You can order their shot glasses. You can order their Mother's Sweet Hot Sauce, only $6.99. You get their jackets, hoodies, tats. They got some great hot sauces here. You can get their flour tortillas. We have been eating them at the house. They are great. Their sauces are great too. Just a great guy, great business, super XFL fans, super DC Defenders fans, and fans of the site. And they're just supporting us, helping us pay the bills. And you can help us by helping them. Just head over to their site, motherscantina.com. That's motherscantina.com. And check out their store. Order a couple items. Just tell them your friends, your boy, Mark from XFL News Hub sent you over there. Just leave that in the notes. That would be great. So we'd like to thank Mother's Cantina as always. Now, how do you get in touch with the show? You email podcast@XFL News Hub with your MP3 or videos, or call 888-430-7692 extension 3. Cutoff time is 5 p.m. Mondays. That's right, Mondays. Why? Well, just looking at the data and just kind of thinking about things, we thought it was best to just do the show on Mondays rather than waiting till Tuesdays. So we get everything fresh out there. You kind of wrapping up your XFL week with us, and then you kind of go off and do your thing. And we got betting stuff. We got DFS, fantasy, all the breaking news in the XFL world during the week. And then you crank it back up Saturday and Sunday, watching the games, hanging with us on social media. And then we wrap up the day on Mondays, and we're going to continue to do that. So Mondays, 5 p.m. Eastern time. And it didn't stop anybody. We got a bunch of phone calls today we want to get through. And remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show. Question of the week. What's the deal with the Seattle Dragons? What should they do? Should they make a QB change? We'll let you guys discuss that later on in the show. And, of course, we have our contest. If you leave us a review on iTunes or subscribe to us, you are entered to win an authentic XFL game jersey of your choice, a value at $225 value. Now, here's the deal. You either got to leave us a review on iTunes or subscribe on YouTube. If you've done one, then just go do the other. Or we'll even enter in if you're a phone caller or emailer. So if you do phone calls and emails, podcast at XFL News Hub, I'll tell you what, if you're a phone call, I'll give you double the votes. We'll get you double. So phone call, email to the show, or leave us a review on iTunes or subscribe on YouTube. Those are your ways to enter it in, and you can win an XFL authentic game jersey of your choice, $225 value. Winner will be announced on the March 31st. That's the end of the month. March 31st episode of XFL Weekend Review Show. It's that simple, friends. That's it. That's what I got. So, without further ado, folks, you know what we got to do first? Let's take a recap of this week's games in the XFL. Our rundown of the Week 4 recaps. We had the LA Wildcats 14, New York Guardians finally win one, 17. So LA Wildcats 14, New York Guardians 17. And this one, Luis Perez, 18 of 26, 150 yards, manages the game, throws a touchdown. Had a 22-yard pass in there too, but it was the ground game. Darius Victor, 18 of 82. And then Tim Cook, 8 attempts for 32 yards. They dominated on the ground. Their ground game looked good. McKay had 4 targets. Pearson had 6 targets. Powell had 4. Spreading the ball around. McKay he seems to be the big play guy, but he did get the touchdown this past week. So their offense is starting to look good with Luis Perez. They put Williams in for barely, but they just let Perez run it out. Josh Johnson was 25 of 40 for 325 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. They didn't come out in the win. He is the guy there in L.A. The run game wasn't there. Harris was 5 of 25. Didn't really get anything going there. Trey McBride, 12 targets, 8 receptions, 127 yards, and a touchdown. Big game for him. Also, Smallwood was 7 for 5 for 75 yards, so he put in a good game there and mixed the ball around a bunch of times. Barnes is looking like a pretty good tight end start. He was 4 of 3 with only 25 yards, but I think they targeted him pretty well during the game. So LA Wildcats 14 in a cold game, and actually the kicking game for the Guardians. I mean, kicking in that weather. I'm wondering if the kicker for LA Wildcats, Novak, is going to still have a job by the start of week 5, because he missed a couple kicks that easily would have won them the game, but the New York Guardians kicker was able to kick in that bad weather and the wind, and they came out with the win, so we'll see what happens. But LA Wildcats go from the West Coast to the East Coast and lose in a cold one, 14-17 to the New York Guardians. Our second game of the Saturday recap deal was the Seattle Dragons versus the St. Louis Battlehawks in the Battle Dome. Seattle falls 16-23. The big thing in this game was B.J. Daniels. Now, Brandon Silvers was 4 of 10 for 27 yards, which is terrible. 2.7 yards per attempt, did nothing. Then they bring in B.J. Daniels. Now, he was 5 of 10, where you're like, oh, okay. For 100 yards, all right, better. 10 yards completion. Had a touchdown and an interception. You're like, oh, okay. That's pretty good, but not as good. I mean, Silvers, whatever. But then you look at B.J. Daniels on the ground. 7 attempts, 84 yards rushing. That's right, 84 yards rushing. Now that opens your eye. Why? Because they're continuing to move those chains. Farrow was 5 of 26, nothing really from their running game. Austin Prohl had 5 targets with 1 catch for 1 yard. So not a lot of stuff coming from their wide receivers, which was unfortunate. But B.J. Daniels, we don't know. Should he be the guy or should it be Silvers? We'll find out later on in the week. That's been the big thing. The ground game, Jordan Ta'amu, 20 of 27, 264 yards and a touchdown. That's great numbers. But throw in 16 attempts on the ground for 63 yards, and that looks pretty good too. Kristen Michael was 12 of 20 with 27 yards, and Matt Jones was 15 for just 20 yards, nothing. And Keith Ford, you saw him bobble that ball in for the touchdown. He was 3 of 23, and he was the one that scored the touchdown on the ground. Pearson L seems to be the favorite target of Ta'amu. He was 5 targets, 5 receptions for 71 yards and a touchdown. He looks like a guy you should go after. So Washington, too. He also was 6 targets for 4 and got 4 receptions for 41 yards. So a good game for Seattle or for St. Louis Battlehawks. Ta'amu is looking good too. Want to talk about a tier 2 MVP? Ta'amu is the guy. Wouldn't you agree? Rushing game, a little surprised about Matt Jones. But B.J. Daniels, the story here. Again, 7 attempts, 84 yards on the ground rushing to go with 100 yards passing. That's pretty good. That's pretty good fantasy numbers right there. The battle, the Houston Throwdown, as they called it. Houston Roughnecks went to Dallas, traveled well. I mean, it was a 3-hour different ride for those Houston Roughnecks fans. And they beat the Dallas Renegades 27-20. No shocker here. P.J. Walker, 25 of 41, 239, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Butler on the ground, the main guy, 11, but only 39 yards. 10 targets to Nick Holley, 8 receptions, 97 yards, and a touchdown. 13 to Khalil Lewis. He only caught 6 of them for 53. And Cam Phillips, you're wondering? 3 targets, 1 reception, 9 yards. That's it. Cam Phillips, zippo, nothing. Landry Jones, he was 25 of 38 for 205 yards with a touchdown and 3 interceptions in the first quarter. Yikes, that was bad. But even worse, he was coming around. He's just rusty, man. He's a slow starter. Then he gets hurt doing a QB sneak, hurts his knee. Looks like he could be out for the season. We don't have full details just yet. On the rushing game, Cameron Artis-Payne, 12 of 31. Not really a great game there. Lance Dunbar was 9 of 48. He had the lone touchdown on the ground. Donald Parham, you got to go with him, the big tight end. They kept talking about him, the 6'8 tight end. He had 10 targets for 6 receptions with 56 yards. And Flynn Nagel, 6 of 6 for 76 yards. Somebody reached out to me and had a couple players that he wanted to start in fantasy. And I told them to pick Nagel, and I was right. 6 of 6, 76 yards is a good number. It will be interesting to see. Philip Nelson came in. He was 1 of 3 for 11 yards. Nothing really going on there, but you can't blame the guy. He was just chilling on the side until Landry Jones got hurt. Dallas had a chance to win this one down the stretch. The strip sack for the fumble and recover for the touchdown was it, but the Dallas was driving. Landry Jones gets hurt, and game over with that little bobble thing at the end by Nagel, I believe it was. I think it was him. And then that cost them the game, and they were driving. It could have been the first overtime. It was a great game. Unfortunate to see Landry Jones go down, but you have Houston Roughnecks stay undefeated 4-0, 27-20 over the Dallas Renegades. And finally, America's team, your DC Defenders. Should I even say these numbers? Let's start with DC. They did nothing. Literally, did nothing, 0. Tampa Bay wins their first game. They got 25 points. Let's take a look at the numbers. Cardell Jones was 9 of 22 for 72 yards and an interception. He didn't throw like 5 interceptions this time, which was good. Basically targeted Eli Rogers, 9 of 4 for 25 yards. That's it. Rocket Ross had 7 targets for 3 receptions and only 18 yards. And Tompkins had 3 targets for nothing. A couple, like 1 or 2 plays, big plays. They took a couple shots down the field. Just a little off. It was with Ross a couple times. Could have been the difference. They could have got them on the board, get them going. I think they're close to get their offense going back again. Some home cooking will do good this weekend. The ground game was nothing. Pumphrey was 7 for 34. Brissett was 6 for 12. But here is the major thing that just blows your mind out. You ready for these numbers? You've been playing Madden? Apparently you were playing Madden against the DC Defenders, and you were Tampa Bay because Smith, 25 for 122 yards, no touchdowns. James Patrick, 21 and got 108 yards and a touchdown. And Cornelius, the quarterback, ran for 4 times for 36 yards and also a touchdown. His game, 24 of 31, 211 yards, a touchdown and an interception. That looks good to me. I don't know about you. That looks good to me. But the rushing game, 2 guys with over 100 yards rushing against the DC Defenders. Is the problem the offense or is it the defensive line? D. Williams had 11 targets for 7 receptions and 72 yards. That kind of stuck out. Horn is another guy, Reese Horn, he likes to throw to, was 6 of 5 for 23. Aaron Murray was on the bench in case of an emergency, had a foot injury, could play. I'm still sticking with Cornelius, man. With that running game like that, decent receivers, they're getting some guys back in the Green, the CFL guy, was in the game. He only had 1 target, though. He was my sleeper pick for DFS. That didn't work out. Thought maybe he would sneak in there. So could they turn their season around against LA? We'll find out. But final score, DC Defenders 0. Tampa Bay Vipers win their first of the game. They get 25. Your friends at XFL News Hub have our Players of the Week, and that's voted by the whole staff at XFL News Hub. First up, we have Jordan Ta'amu, 20 of 27, 264 yards and a touchdown, plus 16 carries for 64 yards on the ground. Monster game from Jordan Ta'amu.
Into Seattle territory for the first time. They pull it back and another completion all the way into the end zone. Easy touchdown, St. Louis. DeMornay Pearsonell with the home folks.
On the defensive side, we have linebacker Edmund Robinson. He had a sack, forced fumble recovery, and the touchdown in the win of the Houston Roughnecks over the Dallas Renegades, which really was the game-defining play from him.
And by the way, it's working. 7 down though. Loose. It's out. And it's picked up for a touchdown. Edmund Robinson. The sack, the fumble recovery, the touchdown. And by the way, it's working. 7.
That was the big play of the game, and that's what closed it out. And finally, we got to give some love to the kicker, Matt McCrane from New York. He was 3 of 3, 51 yards, a 51-yard long field goal. He was critical, and the New York Guardians beating the LA Wildcats. But his thing was that he was kicking in some crazy weather between the wind. I mean, if you saw some of his kicks, they kind of like, oh, they're not going to make it. And then they would curve right back in. Great game from Matt McCrane. The New York Guardians get that victory over LA. So finally, you got it again. Jordan Ta'amu is your offensive player. Defensive player is Edmund Robinson, the linebacker. And then your special teams player of the week is kicker Matt McCrane. All right, my friends, what's up? All my friends in the chat room right now. I know my thing or two, and I'm kind of smart sometimes if I can, but my DraftKings thing, man, it's not working good. All right, let's take a look at our XFL News Hub Fantasy DraftKings League. This is where we just invited a bunch of you knuckleheads, you gambling degenerate people, including myself, and we play fantasy, weekly, daily fantasy football in the XFL. It's a lot of fun. I finished 9th out of 18. Well, I guess a lot of guys didn't. Oh, no. 9th out of 18. So I went with Philip Walker, which is a no-brainer. Tim Cook was. So what I did was I went Philip Walker, Donald Parham, Cam Phillips as my big money guys. That's what I did first. So I was trying to be smart. Then I went lower level guys like Tim Cook, who got 6 points. S.J. Green, who I was like, well, let me just throw it. I mean, I needed somebody like really cheap, and maybe even if he got me like 5 points, it would have been great. Keith Mumphrey was a good pick, only 5%, but he got 7 points. And the Wildcats D going against New York, well, I was wrong about that. They did all right with 5 points. It's Cam Phillips at a 50% own rate, 1 point. That's all he got me. But I'm not the only one. Winner was Brick Money. He got 100 points. He got Philip Walker with 21, Lance Dunbar with 14, Khalil Lewis with 11, DeAndre Tompkins, 0. That was a bad game. And look at that draft percentage, 44. I thought he was going to do something too, but I was like, I'm not sure. Reese Horn, another good like mid-tier guy that you can pick. He had 7. Trey McBride followed up another good game with another good one, 29 points. And then the Vipers D, is that the thing now? You got to pick the D against the DC Defenders? That's not good. That doesn't make me feel okay. In third place, Zach, 46. He got 91. Philip Walker, Kenneth Farrow with 12 points. That's a good one. Parham with 19, just like me. DeAndre Tompkins, 0 for him too. Cameron Artis-Payne, who did not have a great game, had 10 points. Nick Holly, that was a good pick at 23. And then the LA Wildcats, for his defense, he had 5. So I have yet to win any money. As you can see, my balance is low. I have $1. I have to put some more money in. I want to take your guys' money. That's what I want to do. But speaking of picks, let's get into some more picks. Picks that I've been doing good, okay. But recently, this past week, I did not do very well at all. So week 4 is in the books, and as you can see from my picks, they did not go over very well. Went 1-3 last week. Tough game with the DC Defenders, but I had said that I thought Tampa could win that game, and I was right, but I still went with the homer pick. Thought that LA would beat New York, didn't get that one right, and I went on a limb with Dallas and Houston. Didn't realize Landry Jones would get hurt. They had a shot. Dallas had a shot at the end, and they didn't come through, and that's why I lost. So not a good week for your friend Mark from XFL News Hub, but this week is a new week, my friends. This is now week 5. We're going to the halfway point of the season, and so let's see what picks I have for you. If you were going to be a degenerate gambler, et cetera, et cetera. We've been through this many a times. Week 5, game 1, Seattle Dragons at Houston Roughnecks. This is going to be the question is, and it's a couple of these games this week, is who is going to be the quarterback? Is it BJ Daniels or is it Brandon Silvers? It should be BJ Daniels. Played way better than Silvers did. And, of course, we all know who the Houston quarterback is, Phillip Walker. Though Cam Phillips did nothing this past week. He had 1 catch. That was it. I think from here on out, I don't think Houston has got it all together. So I'm going with Seattle Dragons 12, Houston Roughnecks 28. Defense played well. They do give up some points. There's no question about it. If you could get on a run and you can score 30 against Houston, you have a chance. Will BJ Daniels be the difference maker? We don't know. But I'm going Seattle Dragons 12, Houston Roughnecks 28. That's on ABC. Next game of the week, your New York Guardians at Dallas Renegades. This one is tough. This, again, goes back to the same thing. Who is your starting quarterback? Is it Luis Perez, which it should be, or is it Matt McGloin? Got to go with the guy that can bowl between his legs and do that 110 split or whatever. You saw that video that they had during their coverage this past week. It's got to be Luis Perez. He's a game manager. He can throw the ball deep. There's no problem there. They got a good running game with Victor out there. I'm not feeling Philip Nelson at all as far as your Dallas Renegades quarterback. And in this one, I'm picking the upset. New York Guardians go into Dallas and win without Landry Jones, 23-12. I don't think Dallas is going to get anything offense going. Landry Jones being hurt is terrible for the league because he's probably one of the better quarterbacks in there. And we can see even in the XFL, there's only a handful of guys that are really good. Hopefully, does Eric Dungy come back? What's Roback's situation going to be? We'll have to tune in on XFLNewsHub.com during the week. But without Landry Jones, and New York has got a good defense. They've always had a good defense. And now you have a guy that can manage the game in Perez. I'm picking New York 23, Dallas Renegades 12. Your Sunday matchup, yeah, my friends. I don't know about this, my friends. On FS1, the St. Louis Battlehawks versus the DC Defenders. Defenders have done nothing the last 2 weeks. However, it was on the road. Tampa beat them. They did nothing. They did nothing in LA. They're back home where they played well. We have an article on XFL News Hub from Mickey J. Wynn about how the home teams are winning most of them, and very rarely does a team win on the road in the XFL 2.0 era. But the Battlehawks, to me, right now, it's Houston and the Battlehawks. I think I was so impressed with the way they're being coached, the St. Louis Battlehawks. They have a young quarterback who's mobile. That's working well for them. Their running game was okay this past week. It wasn't dominant like the Vipers were, but they have good runners in Matt Jones, Kristen Michael. to run all over DC defenders. I think that's the DC defenders' weakness, is their ability to stop the run, frankly. I want DC to win because then we have a good rivalry going in and we have a good parity, I guess you could say, for that Eastern Division, but I'm not feeling it. I'm going Battlehawks 23, Defenders 9. Defenders finally get on the board. It's either going to be 3 field goals or touchdown and a field goal or something like that. The DC Defenders to light anybody up. They've been so bad on offense the last 2 weeks. It seems like the wheels have come off on the bus, so to speak. It's not good for the league. It's not good, but I'll be at the game. There's no question about it. I will go to the game whether they never score again all season or what, because I'm not a fair weather fan. But these games, these teams like not playing well, like it affects. There's only finite. People want to see a winner, and if teams are laying a goose egg, that's not good. Now New York's win this past week was huge for them, because now that reinvigorated the fan base. A New York win and Defenders loss. Now New York is in the playoff hunt. They have that big stadium. The weather's going to start to get nice. It should be decent in D.C. in the 50s, but I'm going St. Louis Battlehawks 23. Your New York Defenders. I'm sorry, the D.C. Defenders. America's team, 9. Last game, Tampa Bay Vipers at L.A. Wildcats. That's on ESPN, which is that's a good spot on ESPN. This past week was ESPN2, which did okay. But again, watching like Sunday night baseball, Sunday night football, and now you have a Sunday night matchup on ESPN. The Tampa Bay Vipers, maybe they have come around. LA Wildcats this past week, we are who they thought they were. They just beat up on a really bad DC Defenders team that just kind of, the wheels have fallen off. Does Tressman and company get their act together? I'm going no. And I am on the fence with this one as well. I think the Vipers could win, beat LA, but I have to put my money into Josh Johnson. He's a veteran quarterback. Again, going back to those 2 factors. 1, home games matter in the XFL. And 2, East Coast teams traveling to the West Coast. And this is a later game on Sunday. This is a game that I think there could be an upset. I think Tampa Bay could beat LA. I'm not willing to put my neck out down there, but I'm going with Josh Johnson and home field advantage. And you get your Tampa Bay Vipers 20, LA Wildcats 24. What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today. Bad news for the Dallas Renegades. Bad news for the Dallas Renegades. It looks like Landry Jones has a partially torn MCL, and his season basically sounds over. The Renegades QB Landry Jones been nursed left knee injury camp. Just wearing a brace in the game, he put MCL on a 2-yard run while leading the Renegades on a valiant comeback try late in the game versus the Roughnecks this past weekend. Turnaround time on an injury like this is typically 4 to 6 weeks. While he made it back a month ago, after it made it to that week 2 appearance, this time probably could. Man, let's just be honest, he's out for the season. In his absence, Stoops will need to decide if he's comfortable moving forward with Philip Nelson, which some of us are like, I don't know about that. Nelson had an okay performance with the Battlehawks in the season opener, completing a high percentage of passings without pushing the ball downfield. Perhaps maybe they go different. Or he has more confidence in the end that we don't know if Nelson will be the starter. Maybe go with somebody like Brogan Roback, who is the only other QB on the roster, and the fiery 25-year-old could be an option to lead the offense. They can also see what the deal is with Eric Dundry, who's currently out dealing with the tragic death of his father. Maybe he comes back. There's also the possibility of a trade. The Renegades might look around. Connor Cook, who is basically locked out and won't play at all because of P.J. Walker as basically the MVP of the league, but you never know, he could get hurt. That's a guy that maybe they would trade for. Or what about a guy like Quentin Flowers? His name's been thrown around a lot. He's been away from the Tampa Bay Vipers due to some personal reasons, not really getting any playing time. Maybe he wants to have a new shot, but with Taylor Cornelius playing well, it looks like Quentin Flowers' days in Tampa could be over. Taylor Heinicke from the Battlehawks is a name Dallas could consider, with Teamo secure in his starting job as well. We don't know. Team 9 also has C.J. Collins, who's a prototypical build 6'5", 220 quarterback. He's got athleticism and a rocket arm. Joe Callahan, legend of Division III football, has some stints with a couple NFL teams as well. We will have all the latest details on Landry Jones' injury and who possibly will replace him. Definitely, most likely this week will be Philip Nelson. We'll see how he does after that. After that, we don't know, but it'll be very interesting to see what the Dallas Renegades and Bob Stoops does. This past week, Oliver Luck addressed some NFL agents, talked about Team 9 and some other things. He was in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine, and Luck talked about the XFL and some other things. According to Nathan Shackelford, an NFL agent and founder of High Calling Sports, he was in attendance and summarized some of Luck's main points on his Twitter account. First, for those interested in the XFL, a few takeaways from Oliver Luck. 1, fully expect to continue in year 2. That's right. The XFL will return in year 2. Already, Oliver Luck is telling NFL agents. Another one, we'll use invite-only camps and a draft as in year 1, which we had a great time going to the training camp event in D.C., so they'll do that again, that summer league tryout kind of thing, that invite-only camp. We were so excited to get all your messages saying, I want to play in the XFL. I've never played before, but I played Madden, and I want to play in the XFL. How do I play in the XFL? I can't wait for those. 200 players on an NFL roster in 19. They have around, 200 players. I'm not really sure what that means. 200 players on an NFL roster in 19. Teams will retain the rights to players. So that's one of those things where, a guy like Philip Walker, if he doesn't work out for whatever reason, which I'd be stunned if he's not in the NFL next year, he'll be a Houston Roughneck. And that's why I don't think they want to trade Connor Cook. Because if Philip Walker goes, you have Connor Cook, who's been in your system for a year, ready to take over. Team 9 is partially being used to save money by not flying in players for workouts, so they pull from that pool. XFL, of course, is a standalone league, not a developmental league or competitor of the NFL. We've known that for a long time. Emphasis, no year removed eligibility as with NFL, and that players can use XFL as a way to bet on themselves. So some major takeaways. Year 2 is back. The XFL will use an invite-only camps to reach new players. There will be once again a draft, which did great. Teams will retain the rights of their players. Team 9 is a smart move dollar-wise and a re-emphasis on the league's eligibility rules. Those are things that will continue with the XFL in 2021. So, my friends, the XFL is back. We'll be back for another season. We could have told you that one. Even though the ratings are starting to come down a little bit, attendance is coming down, which is all to be expected. One thing that's not is the betting of XFL games. You degenerate gamblers, I tell you all the time. So we're almost a month into the season. The XFL has steadily exceeded the expectations with bookmakers. After week 1, we learned the massive amount of handle that generated as compared to the AAF. And they're gone now, as we all know about that. According to a report from Eric Raskin of usbets.com, the XFL has, quote, kept the tangible and virtual ticket windows busier than bookmakers anticipated. This is good. That anticipation was based on the sportsbook's business that was done during the AAF's 8-week run last year post-Super Bowl. Raskin says the XFL is presenting a pro football alternative in ways the AAF never did. There are several factors that have made the XFL a much cleaner, more engaging product than the AAF, but the major factors on gambling point to the league's embrace of betting on its broadcasts, which a lot of fans have told me they like. It's accessible to the casual fans and finding games on the television dial. That helps also. Initial curiosity can really provide a boost in the league's first few weeks. It'll be much more interesting to see what kind of handle sports books do late in the XFL season and with the playoffs, and how it will affect the league going forward. My personal opinion, I've said this many times, definitely the way things are shaping out in year 1 is the XFL is focused on the bettors as their initial guys that get involved with the league and get interest in the league. I'm like, oh my gosh, you totally lost it. You missed out on a huge crop of fans for XFL fantasy football. However, I would pretty much bet the house that there will be XFL fantasy football next year based on, and I want to know early on because I will build a system and we will do XFL fantasy on our site if that's what needs to happen. And I will build that and I will start that at the end of the season. I might just do it anyway to be safe. I don't think it's that very difficult. You just need the data. But definitely the XFL going after the sports bettor more in the beginning of the season. They're basically your earlier adopters. And then hopefully you'll get your fantasy football guys next year. And then by year 3, you're ready to rock and roll. And that casual fan, that sports fan will come in and the league will be off to the races. Team 9 adds former AAF offensive lineman Sean Brown. Picking up these guys, really interesting to follow what's going on with the Team 9. So former Mississippi Valley State offensive lineman has joined XFL's Team 9. He announced on his Instagram. Brown was as part of a new group of players brought in by the league for private league workouts on February 24th. While the new roster is not entirely known quite yet, certain players are beginning to make it public via their personal social medias accounts. Quote, I know I bring versatility every time I step on the field simply because I can play all 5 positions very evidently. I also bring the mind of a champion, which means I'm always looking to get better and better every second, both on and off the field, always pushing others around me. That's Sean Brown. Connor Folk, our own XFL News Hub insider, said, just in, I'm told the XFL Team 9 staff made a lot of cuts this past week in preparation of adding a new pool of players to the team. Last week, there were over 30 players in attendance for a team tryout. 2 players known were, let's see here. One, who's he got? George Esty and Tommy Gunn. Some other stuff on the lineman. He played The 27-year-old played for the Salt Lake Stallions of the Alliance American Football and was recently with the Philadelphia Soul of the Arena Football League. Now he gets a chance to do his thing in the XFL. Those other guys were Jordan Westerkamp, who I remember that name from early on. He is in part of Team 9. The other one is Tommy Armstrong Jr., former Huskers quarterback. It looks like he might be part of the XFL Team 9 as well. Vipers made some roster moves in a trade before the Week 5 games. They claimed cornerback Trevon Reed from waivers. He was on St. Louis. They traded him to St. Louis. Oh, they claimed him from St. Louis. Then they traded him to St. What? Kellen Solonik, he was received. They activated Andrew Tiller from injured reserve, waived C.C. Jefferson and running back Tyrion Falster and put him on injured reserve. Oh, so they traded Reed and got defensive tackle Solik in there. Reed was injured during training camp with the Battlehawks and placed on IR with the announcer of the 52-man roster. He was activated on the 27th and claimed by Tampa Bay. St. Louis immediately made the trade to get the 29-year-old cornerback, sending Tampa a defensive tackle. Solodek is a 6'5" defensive lineman who played college ball at South Dakota State, yet to record a stat in 2020. Tiller is the biggest addition of the day for the Vipers. The offensive lineman was a surefire lock for a starter at either guard or tackle and will certainly step into the starting job once he's back up to speed with the offense. That's good. Jefferson was active, but yet to get on the field for the Vipers, and with the activation of Obin Guanchum, which actually you heard his name during this past week. I think Jefferson's opportunity to get on the field grew even smaller. Folston was injured during training camp, and now he was placed on reserve. So Tampa making moves. They won their first game. I'm sure this helps. And these other teams will be making moves too. Everybody's trying to improve themselves throughout the season. So the NFL's new collective bargaining proposals could actually affect the XFL. That's right. So we all heard the negotiations between the NFL and its Players Association. They're talking about adding all sorts of stuff. Some of the proposals, talking about extending the games in the league, which I think is a good idea. But one of them has was likely to be agreed upon, both sides, is all around the expansion of the team's roster by 2 active players and 4 practice squad players. The guys at the comeback have pointed out that this could affect the XFL. So if you do the math, teams would then carry 55 players on a roster. We don't know about the game day things. And 14 practice squad hopefuls waiting in the wings. This sounds like a slight adjustment, but when you compile that across the league, it will affect the number of players next year in the XFL. I don't like this. You have 2 active roster spots on 32 teams. That's 64 guys, additional players in the NFL. XFL team holds 55 players, so the active roster spots subtract an entire roster, basically, of the talent pool from the XFL to fill these spots. And it would be likely players on that upper tier of the XFL who are looking to get a shot in the NFL versus some of those lower tier guys. While many might prefer the new league to being stashed on a practice squad, the chances of making it with what many of their whole life. So the other part, squad spots times 32 teams, that's 128 additional practice squad players. This is concerning. This number, while larger, is actually less concerning. Having 128 fewer players around the offseason could be a minor detriment to the team. A lot of those guys will still end up playing in the spring. That is a good point that Matthew makes in his article, that, these guys could be on practice squad teams. However, they could all be cut, and they could still play in the XFL come the new year. But some of them don't. There's no word on if camp rosters are expanding as well, and assuming that number is still at 90. So there you have it. A couple of those things. Nothing is totally set in stone with the CBA and the NFL. Definitely something for us XFL fans to keep an eye on. We got this interesting data, an exclusive on XFL News Hub. Battlehawks season ticket sales are thriving way above the rest of the XFL. Now, we all know about the attendance number with almost 30,000 for their home opener. 4 out of the 5 of the XFL's most in-demand games feature the Battlehawks, and the team's tickets are also valued high at an average of $86. This is according to Vivid Seats. So, the average cost of a ticket sold, Battlehawks top the XFL. St. Louis is number 1 at $86. Dallas is number 2 at $71. Dragons are at $62, and the Houston Roughnecks are at $60. Average cost of tickets sold. Top 5 games in the XFL determined by demand. The Battlehawks appear in 4 of them. The LA Wildcats at Dallas Renegades are $113. New York Guardians Battlehawks for $94. Defenders St. Louis Battlehawk. Defenders are going for $80. Vipers Hawks going for $83, and the Battlehawks at Dallas are going to $75. So you can see the re-energized St. Louis and having a good team, they are hungry for football. And there's rumors that they could open up more seating in the Dome coming soon. So it should be real interesting. But those are great numbers for St. Louis. What we need to get these other numbers up for deep places like New York and LA to help the XFL for the rest of the future, really. Week 4. We got some analysis on the Week 4 attendance if you're interested in the numbers. For the first time since kicking off the XFL, we saw a little dip in the overall attendance between this weekend's 4 games. Week 4, St. Louis, Tampa, New York, and Dallas hosted games. Overall, the league posted an attendance number of 70,000 fans, 70,214. That's across the whole league. While this isn't the lowest number for a full week this season, Week 1 was 69,818. It does raise some little negative signs for the league. Up until Week 4, the league had been seeing a rather steady climb in overall numbers. From Week 1 to Week 2, the league's overall attendance rose 9%. From Week 2 to Week 3, it rose again 7%, all the way to 81,000, almost 82,000. Now, from Week 3 to Week 4, the attendance dropped 14% down to 70,000. There could be a few factors that played into that trend. First, let's look at the attendance breakdown. Week 3 attendance numbers. We saw 18,000 for Tampa, 22,000 for Seattle, St. Louis with 29, and Los Angeles with 21. That was a total of 81. Having almost 82,000 attendance was probably something the XFL never thought they could achieve in year 1. Never mind having it come from the first month of the season. In reality, the fact is that St. Louis and Seattle are basically hosted games in the same week, and that's where the boost came from. Here are the numbers. Let's see here. Week 3 was St. Louis's home opener, and of course they have that fan base. And even though we saw Seattle as a big boost to the overall numbers, they saw a 24% drop in attendance from their opener to their second home game, from 29 to 22. The double-digit dip in attendance could be analyzed the same way. In Week 4, Tampa Bay was hosting their second straight home game, and they started 0-3, and it was expected they would have a severe drop, which was the third highest in the league. They had 18,000. In addition, the Guardians hosted their second home game, coming off 2 straight losses. Those turned out to be, the attendance saw an attendance of under 12,000, Tampa Bay with 12, and New York with 12. But remember, 12,000 this week, Tampa Bay also with 12,000. But you got to remember the weather in New York definitely played a factor in that. The fact that they still had 12,000 and it was that cold was, I think, a pretty good thing. We'll see. Spring is around the corner. It should get warmer. We got some parity here. New York's 2-2. DC's not doing very well. Seattle is kind of get on. BJ Daniels could be somebody that could ignite the crowd and get people interested in coming to the game. So we'll see. Week 5, we got Houston, Dallas, DC, and LA hosting games. So we might have some numbers in the lower range there for this week. But with the weather getting better, we shall see. All right, we'll be back with your social media stuff right after this. Stay tuned, my friends. Bad news for the Dallas Renegades. It looks like Landry Jones has a partially torn MCL, and his season basically... I don't know what just happened to my bumper. Hey, what's up, everybody? We're back. Not sure what happened there. We got your social media stuff coming up as well. We want to say hello to our friends in the chat room as well. Hello. Hello, chat room. It looks like people are talking about Eric Dungy, Yo Bro MMO. He wants him to return to the Dallas Renegades. Well, we shall see about that one. I haven't heard his name put out there yet. What other things we got up here? We got a lot of stuff. Sergeant Pickles 13 says, so are we all convinced that BJ Daniels should have been the guy all along? He provides the spark, and the Dragons' defense has been stout, but on the field way too much. Yes, and we do have Renegades offensive coordinator Hal Mumme diagnosed with a broken leg after that hit. That will be up on XFL News Hub shortly after we get rid of after we're done here. We'll get back to your regularly station, whatever, blah blah blah. Hey, let's get to some of your social media stuff. Speaking of BJ Daniels, we threw it out there, and we weren't surprised by the response. Should the Seattle Dragons make a QB change? We had New York last week, and it worked out. Luis Perez in. New York wins. However, a couple field goal kicks, and LA wins that game. Just throwing that out there. Zach Polinsky says, the backup, not sure what his name is, played way better than the starter did. He should start for Seattle. BJ Daniels. Absolutely. Sreediver 462. Silvers has been bad every week with too many turnovers. Daniel was better when he played Saturday. Agree with that. Ladarier 2017 says, yes, definitely. There you have it from our friends over at the Instagrams. What about our friends over in the Facebook's world? Quickly going through this. David says, isn't that obvious? Okay. Charles says Daniels. Benjamin says yes. Who cares? Your KP Moody. Who cares? Your league sucks. Well, why are you commenting on XFL News Hub stuff if you're saying the league sucks? But everybody's entitled to their opinion, especially on Facebook, even though if it's not true. Yeah. Jason says Daniels lit a spark. Receivers need to stop dropping catchable balls too. True that. A lot of drops going on in this league. Different teams having issues with that. Trevor says Daniels rocked it. Not only did he appear that we have something going in the passing game, but the running abilities kept the defense in check. Second half, which opened up big plays down the field. Right on point with that. Hey, let's get to our first phone caller, shall we?
Hey, with Landry Jones looking like he's going to be out for a minute because of his knee injury, do you know if they're going to bring back Eric Dungy? Because I think he'd do a great job starting for the Dallas Renegades if he was on the team and not taking care of some personal issues. No, not bashing what's going on in his personal life. It's pretty rough, but from what I've been told, what's going on in his personal life with his dad dying and everything. But I hope he can come back and after he deals with all that and is able to lead the Dallas Renegades to victory there. I'm not discouraged as a Dallas Renegade fan about the game. I mean, the way I look at it is we gave Houston the ball 5 extra times. They scored 24 out of their 27 points off the turnovers. So, I mean, we beat ourselves, basically. That's the way I look at it. I mean, if we have a quarterback that doesn't give the ball away 4 times, I believe we win that game. I believe Dallas is still a good team. I just think we need a quarterback that's just not going to turn over the ball and that can also pass over 10 yards, which Nelson has shown that he can't really do that well. So I hope Eric Dungy is able to come back and lead the Dallas Renegades to victory. or do you see something else completely? Just like to know your thoughts.
Yeah, fans are clamoring for Eric Dungey. I don't think the fans of the Renegades have any faith in Philip Nelson. And to be honest with you, our friends, your best friends in the XFL world over at XFL News Hub, the home base, the number one news source, most of those guys aren't feeling him either. Maybe he'll surprise us. Maybe it will be this big change and he'll get things going. But we haven't seen any guys that do really bad and just all of a sudden start doing better. And we're flushing the quarterback situation out. I mean, some people thought Eric Dungey should be a tier 1 guy. We don't know what's going on. Does he decide to come back? What about Brogan Roback? He's another guy. Or about making a trade. Maybe there's somebody out there that we don't even know about that Bob Stoops is making some phone calls to. Jonathan Manziel? No, definitely not Jonathan Manziel. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Dallas. I'm a little worried about them losing Landry Jones for basically the season, let's be honest, is not good news for Dallas Renegades fans, especially Bob Stoops' first year. Man, unless he makes a trade. Connor Cook, perhaps? All right, let's check out our emails. First, we got DPDAVAP. Did we get a name here? Nope. No name. Says, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate this league. Here we are the week after the Super Bowl, and we have the entrance to the new XFL. I did watch the old XFL and turned out because of obvious reasons of content within programming. It is so nice to see solid players playing solid bowl, knowing what it takes for 5 games for them to get going, considering the season start, etc. We are so cheering you on! ! It has brought back the love of football for me because in the NFL I had already have my set teams, but here I kind of like all the teams. Typically I would not cheer for on a DC team. Why not? And finding myself cheering them on because closer playing solid ball and looking at LA with shake my head mentality. And here we have what I saw was the best team in the league being beaten by the worst team in the league. You could see LA start to come on the rise. The uniform logos are outstanding. My favorite kind is the 4-way tie with Houston, Dallas, St. Louis, and Seattle. Who do you think is going to go to the Super Bowl? Time will tell, and I will tell you I'm very excited about this league. I don't know. I think right now it's Houston, St. Louis. St. Louis fan would be rocking. He also says, please stay on the air. I think you guys are on something. I love the style of play. I love how fast-paced it is, like indoor lacrosse meets football, and the hitting is very hard. I love extra points, and I've been saying for years it should run in points only. I love the interaction in the helmet and all the videos from the referees. I do, too, love all that referee interaction. Well, I will tell you, given the current format, I will stay with you guys as long as you will stay with me. Thank you so greatly for having football, as this, to me, is the only real team sport that I enjoy watching, and now to have it year-round is phenomenal, and I will tell you that I am looking forward to the rest of the season and complete off-season to see just how good the product will be. Living in the Rocky Mountains, and if a team are expanding, I'm excited about those process. I guess lastly, I love seeing people get second chances to do something they love. Of course, they're hankering on to expansion in Colorado, perhaps. But thanks for the email there. Positivity. We get tons and tons of. I mean, I could spend an hour reading all the emails about how excited people are for this league, how it's like a breath of fresh air. We needed this. People are kind of like over a little bit the NFL world, and I kind of agree with that. Goose God says XFL will fail. Well, not this year. And apparently, according to Oliver Luck, not next year either, my friend. Not next year either. And we've seen a spike in traffic, so we think things are going good. Hey, we got more phone callers. You believe that? More phone callers.
Hi, I just got a quick question as well. Like, I know the attendance is up across the XFL, but I know in LA it was only 12,000, 13,000. And I'm not bashing the XFL. Please don't twist it by any means, please. If attendance is a thing, why, and the XFL ever plans to expand, I know I've heard you talk about they want bigger markets like San Diego, but why not San Antonio? Why not Birmingham? I know they had really good attendance. I know San Antonio, I think, always had 20,000 plus at games, and I think that would help the XFL a lot. Yes, I know it's a smaller market, but wouldn't it be better for the league to have bigger fan attendance in maybe like a smaller city like San Antonio versus, they're in San Diego, but if they only average like 12 to 13,000, like isn't that worse than, I didn't know if maybe you can explain that to me. I'm not trying to be insulted to the XFL or anything, but I mean, I know they want to maybe get the bigger markets, but why not some of these small markets that would give bigger crowds like San Antonio and Birmingham? All right, thank you for and taking care of my call, and I hope you have a great day, and go Dallas Renegades.
All right, thanks for the phone call. I wonder. Now, I don't think you can do 3 teams in Texas. That's just too much. As much as San Antonio did well, Birmingham, Alabama, I knew from the beginning LA was going to be a tricky market, and they didn't have an NFL team for years, and then all of a sudden they have 2, and they're not even drawing very well. Pure speculation on my point. Would the XFL ever decide to move the Wildcats to San Diego, given the success of St. Louis with a franchise there? Now, Miami is not a good. I never thought Miami was a great NFL town. I mean, you can. And I guess Tampa would probably be that. It would be interesting for the XFL, if they were to ever expand, to throw in a market that does not have a professional football team. I think in the beginning, the reason why they targeted these big cities is because they have lots of people, and they need a certain amount of people to be interested in that. And a lot of people are transplants from bigger cities. So you have like me, who is from New York. I live in Maryland. DC had a team. I went with DC. If they didn't, I might have went with the New York Guardians, perhaps. There's a lot of transplants in Florida. There's a lot of transplants everywhere. So that's part of the thing, too. It's like, why, if you're going to start a league, why start it in a market with 1 million people? Why don't be in a market with 20 million people to get things kicked off? It would be very interesting, and I think good for the league, obviously, to pick another big, clearly, St. Louis. The success of St. Louis is helping San Diego. They're totally helping San Diego get a franchise. I don't think that you'll see a new XFL franchise in season 2. 3, that's when we'll potentially see something. But Alabama would be an interesting one. But like, you got Detroit. I mean, the ratings in Ohio are doing great, and so that's a factor. So, but adding another team in Texas at this time, when there's so many other, I know Texas is huge, everything's better in Texas, whatever. I don't think Houston, I don't think San Antonio would be in the cards for a long time. Alabama, you might be able to twist my arm with that one. All right, let's go to another phone caller, shall we?
Hi, it's Chris calling from London, England. I've been a big fan of Alt Pro Football since the 90s. Your site and your app are really sharp, and the podcast's fun. In the UK, one of our sports channels shows 2 XFL matches every week. It's easy to find the rest online. Now, my partner comes from Athens, Georgia, so I'm a big fan of the Bulldogs and Aaron Murray. So, I'm a fan of the Vipers, who just happen to have blanked America's team. Now, you've been a bit unkind about Aaron Murray in the past. OK, injuries mean that this won't be Aaron Murray's season. But I guarantee you that when eventually someone comes to write the history of the XFL, Aaron Murray will be one of its most important names for bringing credibility. Just as a commentator, not as a quarterback.
Oh, the experts. Oh, there I go. I'm back. I didn't have any audio there for a second. So you took a little dig at Aaron Murray by saying that he is going to make a great XFL person in the booth. He was talking a lot, did do well on the sidelines. I could see Aaron Murray being a backup in the XFL for a while, and then all of a sudden transition to the booth. That could be a possibility. But all us guys in XFL News Hub world, the writers, we're all down on Aaron Murray. I'm sorry, it's not just me. Listen, you can't just blame me. It's other people on the staff as well. Okay, don't take it out on me. Don't take your hate out on me. It's not just me. Okay, but I appreciate you joining the show all the way from the UK, checking in with a little XFL football, the American kind, not the soccer kind, but you call it football, which is cool. I've thought about, to be honest with you, even getting into the MLS game. That's kind of been I've been toying with the idea a little bit to get our XFL Army and the MLS soccer deal, because it seems to be growing. I would never do Major League Baseball, I'll tell you that. I think that thing is going to go bankrupt. I think Major League Baseball will go bankrupt. You cannot. Oh, hold on. I'm going to get on my soapbox for 1 second. How can you pay a baseball player $200 million when your franchise is worth $1 billion, even $2 billion? Who is worth that kind of money when you have nobody in the stands buying merch? That's how much they're worth? $200 million for a baseball player? $30 million for a mediocre pitcher or something like that? The economics of baseball, and I've complained about this. I used to have a pro wrestling podcast, and I would complain about it. The economics don't make any sense to me. I don't get it. I don't get it. All right, let's go to another emailer, shall we? And yes, I might have messed up my audio, but it's working now. I hit the mute button by accident. Rodney checking in. He says, and I quote, "This game was fixed. I can tell by the play calling. This team tonight had no wins, just like the team last week DC played. This doesn't help ratings by them losing 2 weeks in a row to a winless teams by no point. This is why I didn't even watch the game. I just kept watching the score. I know football and I know betting. This is both. That's all I have to say. I still love the XFL." All right, that's nice. He kind of did one of those, what do you call those, Oreo cookie sandwich things. Like, listen, I really appreciate you guys watching the show, but you're a bunch of idiots. But I'm happy that you joined with us, and it's great to have you here. What do you call a compliment sandwich or something? Compliment cookie. Well, clearly the game is not fixed because they would want DC to win. There's no question about that. And to go 0 points, there's no fix. Come on, man. There's no fix. But I'm glad you're still watching the league. That's a good thing. Continue watching. All right, on to the next phone call up.
This is Rico with Real Talk Sports, reporting live here for the XFL News Hubs. And we're doing a post-game wrap-up here of the New York Guardians and the LA Wildcats. What a game it was, as it ended 17-14 with the New York Guardians moving to 2-2 and the LA Wildcats dropping to 1-3. It was a tough contest as both teams came into this one at 1-2, both teams needing a win with it only being a 10-game season. And so just a disappointing loss here for the Los Angeles Wildcats. And it was a tough day, even from a weather standpoint, as it was snowy and it was windy out there, and it showed. With Josh Johnson and the offense, they were a bit stagnant, and the best performers of the day were Trey McBride, who had 6 receptions, 102 yards, and a TD off 8 targets. And then you also look at Jordan Smallwood, who had a terrific game as well. So when I look at this contest, I look at the fact that the offense looked a little bit better in the sense that they were able to move the football at some points and able to air it out. But there were some points where they weren't able to move the football on the ground, and that certainly was costly here. You have to take your hats off to the New York Guardians. I think that they played terrific football in the sense that they were able to dictate the line of scrimmage. And then also, too, Terrell Owens actually had a terrific game today for the Guardians. He had a couple sacks and then also a big blocked field goal in the third quarter, which could have knotted things up here for the Los Angeles Wildcats, which maybe would have made this a lot better situation here. But, it's just a tough contest. I think that Winston Moss, when you look at it, I think he was spot on with a lot of the defensive calls and a lot of the offensive calls, but just some costly mistakes. They just struggled to get personnel in and out. And they also, too, just struggled basically to keep Josh Johnson up in critical moments. And that's something that I think when you look at it, LA is going to have to take a deeper look at it. I know that they didn't have Nelson Spruce today. He was out with the knee injury. And certainly that's big. A guy that had 20 receptions, 256, and was second here in the XFL. So you miss a guy like that, and then you miss a guy like Martez Carter, who helped you control the line of scrimmage last week with his 3 touchdowns on the ground. And this is what you get. This is what you get. I think it's tough for Josh Johnson because for me covering this team, I think he's one of the better quarterbacks here in this league, considering that he just got done with a stint here with the Washington Redskins. He's had 12 stints in the NFL, and he looked polished in the sense that he was calm and poised throughout. He wasn't able to move the football at the critical junctures of the game, and that's unfortunate here. But you have to take your hats off to the New York Guardians. I think that when you look at their success, you got to take your hat off to Luis Perez. I think he was terrific at managing the football game. When you look at his stats, he was 18 of 26 for 150 and the 1 TD. And when you look at that statistic, what it automatically indicates there is that, I think anytime you look at the fact that he's 18 of 26, that means that he was hitting on a lot of the short underneath stuff, and he got warmed up and eventually was able to go down the field. And then you look at the fact that he also had a terrific supporting cast here because Darius Victor did a terrific job on the ground. He had, 14 for 83. And so when you look at that combination between the fact that Luis Perez was able to keep his team certainly, attacking with the passes that he was hitting, and then also too, you look at the fact that they were able to dictate the line of scrimmage, and that's how you win football games. And so it was terrific. It was a classic football game in the sense that the score wasn't that high, the 17-14, and I think that it was a situation where we thought it was going to be a lot more fireworks, especially, considering with what the Los Angeles Wildcats were able to do last week with the 39 points. But you look at the fact that, they did have to travel out here east, and then also too, just the weather conditions were tough as well. You look at Novak and you look at the field goal situation. He missed something early in the contest in the second quarter. It was a missed field goal, and I believe that was probably maybe he just pushed it a little bit to the right. And then you look at the big block field goal here from Terrell Owens, which perhaps that could have been the difference here. So, where the teams go from here, you look at the New York Guardians, I think that this puts them right back in the thick of things now. They're 2-2. As we mentioned before here at the top, it is a 10-game season. And when you look at what Los Angeles has to do, they're going to have to figure it out here. I think that they looked a lot more better than they looked here in the first couple weeks, but they still haven't figured out a way to dominate the line of scrimmage from a defensive standpoint. They have a whole host of defenders here on the back line that they've got to figure out. You look at the fact that, last week they were able to turn the football over somehow, some way, even though their top corners were out. So they've got to figure out what to do there on the back half, and certainly on the front half, they've got to get better as far as rushing the football. So once again, this is Rico with Real Talk Sports, reporting live here for XFL News Hub.
All right, Rico, I love it. See, that's the kind of phone call we want on this show. Like the music, good commentary. Sent me an MP3. Perfect. Rico, Real Sports, I love it. Yeah, I mean, Nelson Spruce gone. I think what hurt them the most is the kicking. Missing those kicks really hurt them. And then I totally didn't even think about Carter being out too. Now, it wasn't like, I mean, he had 3 touchdowns, but it wasn't like he had 20 rushes for 100 yards kind of thing for his game. And we're talking about the DC Defenders, and you saw them this week too. Real interesting what LA is going to do this week with their game. And New York, it's so interesting because I'm not like definitive anymore because I'm like, what team are you going to get? Now, LA almost, I mean, if you really looked at it, I mean, a field goal, then they had the block field goal that you brought up. Those things cost them the game. It wasn't like they got blown out. We'll see what LA brings this week. Last call up.
Hey, this is Richard from Twitter. As Richard O for real. I like to say that I enjoyed all the games this weekend. They were very close, but I just have to say when the Dragon put DJ Daniel in, he made the second half more exciting and like AFC, like almost a comeback. They went for that pick. But my thing is, why I'm still hearing some of the guys on the other podcasts, they're saying that B.J. Daniels shouldn't be the starter. I mean, he proved that he can, make the offense better for the Dragon. I just don't understand.
All right, thanks for the phone call, Richard O for real. I'll tell you this. He should be the starter. I think what we're starting to see here is guys that can move and continue to keep the ball moving. You Jordan Ta'amu, P.J. Walker. I keep calling him Philip Walker. I don't know why. P.J. Walker. Those guys, B.J. Daniels. Next thing you know, that offense is moving. Even Cardell Jones had some rushes in his game. I think the football in general, you need to realize that, even Taylor, and I can't even remember his name right now. Somebody in the chat room tell me. Taylor C. from Tampa. Even he was moving around. I want to say Konecki, but that's not it. I can't remember his name. It's a long show. This is, I think, our longest show ever. Love all the content. But, yeah, put B.J. Daniels in. Just what especially he's going to be a draw because he played for the Seattle Seahawks. So just quit playing Jim Zorn and put him in. On to the chat room real quick. Yo Bro MMO says 2-3 years to show the big networks what kind of analytics the XFL can bring. I think they're going to keep the status quo this season. I don't know if they'll Taylor Cornelius. That's it. Oh my goodness, it's been a long day. Let's see. Vince McMahon, Sunfree Productions says Vince McMahon is worth $2.1 billion. He has enough money to put money into the XFL. Yeah, we're not worried about that. So far, so good. I mean, you guys are loving it. I'm loving it. It's all good. And we got a long show out of it. And this, guys and ladies, I don't want to be rude. We have week 5 upon us. We are at the halfway point. We will celebrate the halfway point because I believe Johnny Manziel said it wasn't going to make half a season. So Jonathan Manziel, we'll celebrate him next week because I believe that's what he said. That we will celebrate that like we celebrated Antonio Brown, who's apparently going to buy the XFL. And I don't think that's happening. And it wouldn't make past 3 games. Well, he was wrong about that. So what I want from you guys next week, and this is a good one because remember, we're reaching the halfway point. Week 5 will be in the books. I want to know halfway award winners, top offensive player, top defensive player, best coach. I think we all might know who the top offensive player is. However, this weekend, Jordan Ta'amu puts in a big game. I don't know what we're going to do. So that's for your question of the week. Remember, you can find us. If you want to be part of the show, you can email podcast@xflnewshub.com or call 888-430-7692 extension 3. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, XFL News Hub. You guys know that. You can download our app. We love everybody using that app. Tons of downloads for that, which has been great. Remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. be part of our contest. Use iTunes review or YouTube subscription to enter to win an XFL Authentic Game jersey of your choice. A $225 value when it will be announced March 31st episode of XFL News Hub. Plus, if you email us or send us a phone call, we'll enter you in to win that as well. So participate in the show, help us out with the subscription, or leave us an email, send us an email, and you'll be entered to win too, just by participating. That's it. And you can listen to the show at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Stitcher. We're all over the place. For show notes, XFL News Hub /XFL-podcast. That's where you can get all the show notes. You can click on our sponsor, Mother's Cantina. You can click on a link there. Links to the articles, how to get in touch with us, all sorts of different kinds of stuff. It's been a great show, my friends. Do I just talk for another 2 minutes so I can get an hour and 30 minutes in? But no, I can't. You guys have things to do. I have things to do. Google can eat a D. Apparently you're not a fan of Google. Says, I love the XFL. And we do too, and we know that you guys do as well. So that's it for me, folks. Thanks for listening. God bless you all. And I will see you all after week 5. Later. Bye-bye.